It began with a silence so strange, it made the hair on the back of your neck stand up. One moment gunfire, the next nothing but the crunch of snow under boots. And then a football rolled into no man's land. On Christmas Eve, 1914, in the middle of the bloodiest war the world had ever known, rifles lowered, hands reached across barbed wire, and two armies stopped to play. This is the story of the Christmas Truce, the day the Great War paused, if only for a moment, to remember humanity. By December 1914, the war that was supposed to be over by Christmas had already devoured hundreds of thousands of lives. The Western Front stretched from the Belgian coast to the Swiss border, a line of trenches carved into frozen mud, defended by wire machine guns and artillery. Life in the trenches was misery turned routine. Rats feasted on corpses. Lice crawled through seams of uniforms. Boots never dried, and trench foot rotted flesh in the damp. The war's first months had promised movement. German armies swept through Belgium. French counterattacks surged. But by winter, everything had stalled. Attacks cost thousands of lives. For a few hundred yards of earth, the front was locked in stalemate. In those narrow trenches, men shivered in wool coats, stiff with frost. They wrote letters home on damp paper, their ink smeared by trembling hands. One British soldier wrote, "Ground is frozen solid. The mud, the filth, everything hard as stone. We fire across no man's land every day, but it feels like nothing will ever change." And so, as Christmas approached, both sides carried not just rifles, but exhaustion. The frost lay thick on the sandbags. The ground crunched like glass under boots. In the British trenches near Ypres, Private James Walker rubbed his hands together, his gloves stiff with ice. He glanced toward the German lines, just 70 yards away. Mist drifted, low, nothing moved. "It's too quiet," muttered Corporal Henry Bates beside him. A veteran of 3 months of trench fighting, Bates could smell danger, but what he felt now wasn't danger. It was hesitation. A pause. Across the way, German trenches stood equally still. A thin column of smoke rose, and faintly, a sound drifted across the frost, not gunfire, but singing. Still not, hey, lead not. The Germans were singing Silent Night. The melody was so pure, so utterly out of place, that men froze in disbelief. Some exchanged nervous glances. Others smiled in spite of themselves. From the German parapet, a lantern rose, its glow flickering in the mist. Behind it, small fir trees appeared, decorated with candles. "Bloody hell," Bates whispered. The enemy wasn't firing. The enemy was celebrating Christmas. From somewhere down the British line, a voice answered, cracking but strong, "God rest ye merry, gentlemen." Others joined in. 2 carols, 2 languages, wove together above the battlefield. A diary from a German soldier later recalled, "When we began singing Still Not, the English clapped and shouted to us. Then they sang carols of their own. It was as if the very air had changed. For once, there was no hate." Private James Walker felt the tightness in his chest ease. For the first time in months, the trenches weren't just trenches. They were places where men listened instead of shooting. A figure climbed from the German trench. Gray coat, bare head, hands raised. He carried no weapon, only a small crate. "No shoot. We, friends today," he called in broken English. Silence held. Fingers tightened on triggers. Then a British sergeant waved to hold fire. James Walker slung his rifle, stepped up, and crossed the frost at the wire. He stopped 10 feet from the German. "English?" the man asked. "I? And you?" "Bavaria," he replied, pulling a bottle from his crate. "Beer," James laughed. "You've got to be joking." "No joke." James patted his pocket. "Tobacco." A trade was made beer for tobacco. and a spell seemed broken. From both sides, more men climbed out. Scots offered shortbread. Germans gave sausages. Cigarettes, chocolate, buttons, even hats changed hands. No man's land, a graveyard yesterday, had become a marketplace of laughter. Then someone shouted, "We should have a game." From the German lines came the answer, "Ja, football." A ball was found old, half flat, but enough. Helmets marked the goals. Men stomped the frost flat to make a pitch. The first kick was clumsy, skidding across ice. Laughter erupted as both sides chased after it, slipping and sliding. One diary recalled, "We played football with the English, a match in the middle of war. I think we won, 3-2, but no one kept score. Rifles lay forgotten in trenches." For a few minutes, the war was replaced by shouts of "pass" and "shoot" in 2 languages. A German goalkeeper, still in his long greatcoat, dived into a puddle to block a shot, coming up spluttering and laughing. A British corporal was hoisted into the air by 2 German soldiers after scoring. There were no rules, no sides, no winners, just the shared joy of the game. As the game wound down, men gathered in clusters, passing bottles, trading photographs. One German showed James a picture of his sister. James pulled a photo of his wife and baby from his pocket. They nodded, no words needed. That night, carols rose again. Silent Night sung in German and English together. A harmonica joined, and a battered violin. A British soldier wrote home. It was a sight one will never forget. Enemy soldiers, singing together as though they were friends. If only it could have lasted. But war does not give second chances. By morning, orders arrived. Fraternization forbidden. The fighting must resume. James Walker saw Franz Bauer, the young Bavarian he had traded with, across the lines. Their eyes met. "We didn't choose this," the look said. A shot cracked down the line. Whether accident or command, no one knew. The spell shattered. Machine guns barked. The battlefield returned to its old sound. In the mud of no man's land, half buried, lay the football. Once a symbol of laughter, now another relic of war. The truce did not end the war. It dragged on for 4 more years. But those who were there never forgot. James Walker survived, wounded twice. He carried the ember of that day like a hidden fire. In 1928, he received a letter from Munich from France. "I remember that day. I tell my children I once played football with the English. They smile and say it sounds like a dream. Perhaps it was." Decades later, James told schoolchildren of the singing and the game, not medals or battles, but the day war forgot itself. One boy asked, "If you could play together, why didn't the war just stop?" James sighed. "Because men in offices far from the trenches didn't see what we saw. Maybe they didn't want to. Wars are remembered for battles that burned cities and claimed lives. But sometimes, history hides a quieter truth. On a frozen Christmas Eve, 2 armies stopped killing each other to play a game. For a few hours, there were no uniforms, no orders, only men, fathers, brothers, sons laughing in the cold. It did not end the war. By morning, killing returned. But those who were there carried that memory for the rest of their lives. Proof that even in the darkest winters, the human spirit can choose light.